to the president and the general chairman of Rome Business School. That is Professor Antonio Ragusa and his board of trustees and board of directors for providing this global citadel that has made, I know for sure, has made a lot of impact upon many professional lives and personas, of which you listening to me this afternoon, you're already part of it. And also to extend that regard to the country director and the manager for ROBSN here, on whose platform we're discussing this afternoon. That is my very good friend, Dr. Humphrey Akanazu and his team. And to my fellow speakers as well, that are here, it is an honor to share audience with you. So, dear executive students, ladies and gentlemen of ROBSN, let's begin the assignment. So permit me to share, just for the sake of visual coordination, the assignment which I have been given. I'm told that we are discussing topic, which is impact of digital technologies on agricultural practices. So I'll be towing the line of a classroom setting, but if you have any question, please feel free to contact Sarah. They will coordinate so we can have a very wonderful session. So in the next few minutes, the focus will be to discuss what impact digital technology is having on agricultural practices, but to bring it home, to make sure we cover as much as we can, to make sure questions are answered. I would like to start by discussing the impact wheel. Why are we discussing technology or agri-tech or smart agriculture at this time? What is the impact? Why are you so dearly to be involved at this time? So what exactly do we mean by digital agriculture? What is called Agri 4.0, and people are already extending that. Several researches is being done to extend that to a revolution of Agri 5.0. Why should you technify agriculture? Why should you technify the area, regardless of the sector that you're in? Why should you think about bringing technology in and converting a lot of the practices that you have been doing for ages? Why should they need optimization? So, are there some global trends? Are there some local trends that the rest of the world has already kick-started? Maybe we'll get to find out. Whether you are in equipment and plant manufacturing, whether you are in fertilizer industry, for example, whether you are in energy and food or beverages, one good thing is bringing everybody together this afternoon, and that is agriculture. And I'm in the middle of it, which is technology. So may I introduce this, from this aspect? I had to go through a lot of research and publications to make sure I don't say, I know many of you are already experts in agribusiness, but I wanted to make sure that agriculture is still and still remains the backbone of many economies. And I'm particularly glad if you go through the impact for 2020, by FATISA, the EU, and so on and so forth, the founder to the world population 7 billion. And so that further solidifies the need for businesses to be sustained. And one of the businesses we're discussing this time around is sustainable farming and the practices that requires us to merge that number and make sure operation nobody goes hungry, which is zero hunger, as said by the UN, is achieved. If you go through some of the one that really caught my eye was a report that was published late last year by the director of UNCTAD, that's the African Least Developed Countries, that Paul Akiwumi, where, and if you combine that with some other statistics that you find on Statistica and like a lot of research has been done, which states that 52% of employed people in sub-Saharan Africa actively involved in agriculture. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, so that you won't think for me that is in tech, I'm not concerned about agri. One way or another, like I told you, technology is in the fabrics of every single thing that is being done, aspect of our lives. And if you look at further into that report, you'll see roughly about 45% of all area has been dedicated to sustainable agriculture. And that 45% is located in Nigeria, like which is like a greater part of that. I will also mention that I was glad to see that the second country that has the largest, reserved agricultural area happened to be our own country, which is Nigeria. Of course, South Africa is South Africa having about 96 million acres, and Nigeria having about 69 acres. That's just to tell you that the agricultural bundle is concerning everybody, whether you are in the hydrosphere, whether you are pedosphere, whether you are atmosphere. Even if you're not the type that will carry the rake and tools and traditional tools, one way or another, technology in the agricultural is bringing together. So there is need for us to further do things differently, something that can sustain and make that target that has been set to be achievable. And the only tool which we can use to make that happen is fair technology. So when you see people saying agri-technology, when you hear digital agriculture, when you hear Agri 4.0, when you hear smart farming, we are just referring to using the digital tools, software, machines, and at the heart of that is data, all right, to help optimize whatever practices. So to somebody who is in livestock, for example, if you ask a person what is smart farming, the person is going to define smart farming coming from the purview of livestock. If you ask somebody who is in crop, for example, the person will also define that from the purview of crop. But the graphics that I have before you give you an idea. What brings everybody together is data. That data is going to sit on a platform, be it software, be it hardware. And that will further elevate you to make decisions towards actualizing the set target. So the set target to be to further make more farm produce, further make, bring out more knowledge, further make some predictions, further come up with better practices of doing agriculture. So that is what is referred to as Agri 4.0. And because it had to do with a lot of fundamental technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so on and so forth, right? It is a revolution that has come to stay. So you see, even somebody who is into supply chain, you begin to hear supply chain 4.0. If you are in BIS, you hear BI 4.0 because it has come to stay. And I'm particularly glad that even the telcos are beginning to also introduce us to mobile services that leverages on more of intelligence. You must have heard of the 5G. Why are we discussing 5G? Because everything around you is tailoring towards mobile applications and then interconnectivity. So the secret that led to this becoming rather more compulsory at this time is presented before you. So it's either you are running towards giving more strategy towards having a profitable business, furthermore giving value to the economic growth, or you are looking at how you can improve output, like I mentioned, or you are as well from the knowledge-intensive service, you are trying to provide in-depth research and development on how things are to be done. Or you are simply from my own side, which is to provide applications that practicing farmers can carry at any point in time to do their businesses. So you begin to see people want to have a purview, like an overall view of what their farm network looks like. For somebody who is just doing a simple garden, well, how can you begin? I said, there are several aspects of your agricultural practices that definitely will need you to optimize your activities using technology. So it could be just a very simple management of stock. It could be to tend to the animals that you're having or tend to crops. It could be like the dashboard that I'm having, even set price and have a smarter supply chain, locating where your market is supposed to be. your market is, or it could just be somebody who is a little bit more into large-scale farming, that you want to use the likes of drones and see areas that require more. I'm going to be mentioning some of those trends already, and why this thing is not far away from us. There are businesses that are set up right now in the country, and that is what the collaborations we have been doing together to provide such services. So if I'm not holding a shovel, digging, plowing the field, I can sit behind my keyboard and also be part of what the Agri 4.0 is presenting. So the benefit is there, and if you are not in any of these, somebody can tell you that you are running an agri business that is using a no-brainer. So at any point in time, higher crop productivity can be your target. Increased worker safety can be your target. Maybe you are trying to be environmental friendly, or maybe you're trying to decrease the use of resources like your water, your fertilizer, your pesticides, and so on. That's what we have. Okay, so let's look at those inventions one by one. Okay, so the very first one that I have there is agricultural drones. Okay, and what people are already using that for. Now, these things are not coming, like I said, these are not practices that you see. There are several outlets here within the country and also within Sub-Saharan that are already using this either for monitoring, for image analysis, detection of diseases, pest control, irrigation optimization, herbicides, and so on. So it could be that what you need is just to get into partnership with people who can give you agri drones. And if you check, even for delivery of farm produce, these drones are being used. So you can also see that in automated irrigation system, where soil type, crop type, the weather condition and everything is already stored on the system. And it doesn't require human intervention to know when to sprinkle. So all those data is used, and significantly you save resources and all that. It could be that you are into animal tracking, whether you're doing real-time location, maybe you're into grazing, for example, to monitor the health, to monitor the stress level, the issue of security, or even animal welfare or plant welfare. Some are wearable, some are something that you can submerge. So you have collars that enable, and many of us as humans are already into this. You have your smartwatches that can monitor into key health areas that you don't need doctor visits. That is also extended to the agricultural practices. If you're more into the extended version of it, so you can see genetically modified crops, right? That shows us, although they're of course still standing in an area of controversy and debate, but you guys are the experts in that area, but we are told that crops can be grown differently, right? And we are also looking at that. The one I actually like, because it falls under my professional life, is precision farming, right? And what we are supposed to use for precision farming, excuse me, where this one rather will use advanced technology to enhance the efficiency and sustainability of agri. You have to collect a lot of data, soil property, weather condition, and you can use that to make data-driven decisions on how to optimize a lot of resources. Okay, so what I have before you factors that people say, oh, this is why we have not yet integrated technology fully into agri-science or into agribusiness or into the practices of farming. I see those things as excuses. So you can see questions about no education, skill set to do that. We're going to answer it. The federal government is answering that. Just answer it, and then I hand over to Sarah to make more. For example, if education is your issue, yeah, I'll come back to this clearly. No more, you don't have really, or there are no policies and so on. Many of you already know the National Agricultural Technology Innovation. Is bringing long-lasting economic social change through inviting public and private sector to invest, and it's majorly around technology. Everybody is bringing technology, so you see people talking about greenhouses, hydroponics, and everything. So there is a policy that is already welcoming that. So if I mention the second one, you begin to see things like, oh, I don't know how the infrastructure is going to be like. There are outlets in the country, let me go back to that excuse now. There are outlets in the country that can actually help you to digitize a lot of things that you do. So it could be the area, the land, whatever that had to do with soil is not that key. That was what made me to also mention this issue of hydroponics, which people are already using to grow crops, using nutrient-rich water other than soil. So you see, where what you are counting as an issue has already been solved, and you have a lot of them here in the country. Okay, so somebody will say, but there is a high cost of maintaining these things. The truth is this: you can always begin with an aspect of your farming practices. I was discussing with a company. I said, well, if you want to digitalize the entire thing, we can start somewhere. It could be by having an all-integrated monitoring system for how your goods are shipped. It could be by looking at the smart sensor that you can do and then begin to keep the data over time, and then you scale it up right there. So regardless of whatever technology you want to go into, the 3 steps still remain the 3 steps. You want to further collect data and how you can as well monitor what is going on. You want to analyze that so that you can predict and make decisions at the end of the day, sit at the comfort of wherever you are and have smart control over your farm network. So I'm going to be concluding because of our time, right? So if we're beginning to discuss this, you realize that the impact of technology on agricultural practices is having or is a tremendous transformation across different sectors of agri, and that spells a permanent future that is not going to be changed by any mediocrity, right? So from precision farming, for example, to smart irrigation, automation of technologies to increase efficiency, productivity, and so on and so forth. Technology has facilitated throughout many of the things that we have mentioned, where places, finance, your stock, your warehouse, and so on, right? We are trying to see how we can foster rural development. So at the end of the day, you realize that in a better way to do what we are doing this afternoon, the impact that technology is having on agribusiness is not something we are going to just overshadow and then say it does not concern you. So I believe those of you listening to me this afternoon, your questions is going to help, for me to bring down some practical scenarios. If there are requests that you want to make, can also table that. Because of our time, Sarah, I want to just leave this here, and then we'll use the question, and of course, the speaker too may also have an area that So thank you for listening to me, everybody.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Raymond Okoro. Quite insightful. Really appreciate the professional presentation, and we've learned a lot from within that short period of time. So talking about, I picked it very well. You said the only tool that can make agriculture viable in this dispensation is digital technology, and I totally agree with you. So we need to move to Agri-Care 4.0, and you gave us some secrets that led to the adoption of agri-technology, profitable economy, improved outputs, and then you also talked about growing assistance, mobile application, and in-depth research. And you highlighted a lot of the benefits that we could derive from the technology by introducing technology into the agri space, higher productivity, worker safety, and the reduction in food wastages and losses. So really appreciate your insight. So we're going to hold on a bit for questions and answer at the end of the second speaker's presentation. So please kindly hold on for us. So we have our second speaker, Mr. Samson Ogbole is already on board. Mr. Samson is the team lead for Eupepsia Place Limited. That's a soilless farm lab where they use technology as an enabler for agriculture. The company grows plants without the use of soil. They use machine learning and artificial intelligence-based irrigation system for optimum yield and predictability of food production. So he has, just to give a little background about his academic background, he has a BSc in biochemistry from Igbinedion University, a Masters of Science in Biochemistry from Ibadan, University of Ibadan, and a biochemistry PhD candidate. So from in Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. There are so many other certificates he has obtained. Disruptive strategy from Harvard Business School, Boston, USA, biotechnology from Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, introduction to food and nutrition from Stanford University, and also introduction to population health from the University of Manchester, bringing the economy from Lund University, Sweden, sustainable agriculture for year 2050 from Wageningen University, and then also talk about economic agroecology and sustainable agriculture from the University of Western Australia. So he is a member of a Royal Court Oni of Ife Kingdom and an awardee of Royal African Awards. He also got a recognition of top 100 young Nigerians doing great things. That was in 2021. He's a regular speaker on TED TDX and also on the TED. Is among the top 500 persons whose company in the world and global entrepreneurial talent is at the intersection of food, technology, and sustainability by Forward Fooding in 2020. He has been recognized as one of the top 7 innovators in Africa in 2018 by CNN Africa. He was also recognized by our own EFCC as one of the young and legitimate innovative mind in 2018. One of the top 100 global leaders combining profit and purpose to help achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in 2019. So I can go on and on. So when it comes to agriculture for Mr. Samson, it's more than just food production. It is the foundation for sustainable development, job creation, healthy living, as well as national development. He believes so much in agriculture, and he believes that must adopt a business mindset, technology and automation, precision, data, and also climate smart. So Farmer Samson has devoted his time and resources to building modern farms, exploring the latest technologies for agriculture, sharing and
Okay, I think our network has done its thing again with engineer. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and ask Mr. Samson Ogbole to take the floor. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm from Samson Ogbole. Thank you to Doctor for the great presentation. That's Dr. Okoro's presentation. That was awesome. So what I would rather do, so that we do not have to repeat same things again and again, I'm going to see how to share a few videos from my downloads. And so what I would just do is explain what we do on the farm and try and use some of the things that Doctor talked about in his discussion to show how we are able to use same to achieve what we are doing. So like it was read in my profile, I am a soilless farmer, meaning we grow crops without the use of soil. This is about a few months ago. Right now, most of these places already have greenhouses. We have over 160 greenhouses and counting. And for us, it's important that we are able to monitor every activity that is happening on the farm. Not like we have so many hands working on the farm. Instead, we are able to make best decision using data. That was what our doctor was trying to talk about. So first, before we started off operation at all, we started with first trying to understand what is the environment like? Are there natural windbreakers? If there are no windbreakers, what kind of wind do we expect? So we had to go into data to see what is available, what has been the the experience in this area. That was the determinant of the type of seed we are going to plant, because we needed to understand what is the pathogenic history of that area. That was the determinant of the kind of greenhouse structures we were going to build, the strength of the material. So when we talk about digitization of agriculture, it's not just about the area of application on growing the plant, but for us, it also deals with how we make decisions, because like you will notice, there was a chart that Dr. showed that talked around how at the end of the day, you are able to make informed decision. So to make that informed decision, we must be able to know what are the likely things we are going to encounter, what is the wind, how much rain, what's the temperature, what's the humidity, what kind of net should we use so that we are not keeping in so much humidity at the same time, what kind of net should we use so that we are not losing so much air, based on the kind of pathogens in the environment, what are their vectors, based on the size of those vectors, that informed the kind of material we use for our covering, because we want the hole to be so small that the vectors cannot come in, but not so small that air cannot come in and out easily, because if the holes are too tiny, we will have reduced airflow. With reduced airflow, automatically, the plant will not get enough air. And if the plants are not getting enough air, we would have to space them further so that we can have proper pollination. What that simply means is we are reducing our plant population. So all of these things tie together. So at the end of the whole checking before construction, we got our materials, started the construction of the farm. While building the farm, the next major thing is what kind of seed am I going to buy? So we understand the kind of pathogens that are in the environment. Based on that understanding, this informed the kind of seeds we are going to buy. That way, we are not fighting things that we could have prevented just by knowing what to expect. So we buy the kind of seeds that are already built to be able to resist these diseases, what we refer to as hybrid seeds. So we are getting the right hybrid seeds that can help us protect, that can naturally combat the diseases. So all of this is precision agriculture. This is part of the digitalization of agriculture. Then, of course, in addition, with planting, we've gotten our planting population, we are getting sensors. Now, in getting sensors, there is buying sensors because you have the money, and there is buying sensors because you understand the parameter you want to track. You understand the parameters you want to track. So take, for example, there are sensors that will tell you how much sunlight you are getting. But the good thing for us is we are in Ogun State. There are already records of sunlight for Ogun State. So we don't need to get sensors for that. We can just take advantage of what already exists. Again, I know we live in a world where we always say, oh, Nigerians don't have data, but to a large extent, we have data. They are not just easily accessible, neither do people even know where to get them. So we went to the Nigerian Meteorological Agency to say, okay, what does this say? What does that say? So we are only getting sensors that we need. Then, of course, we picked our plants down in.
Hello,
sorry, can
Mr.
you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Could you please
Yes,
check
please.
your screen? The slide is not moving, and it looks like we're just seeing your file. So maybe you please check your slide. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. No, it's a video I was playing. Thank you for that. I was actually playing a video. I was just playing a video going across the farm. Is it moving now, please?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, we can see it now. Thank you.
That's a video of the farm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. So with that, there are also, under the whole precision aspect, now that we have started planting, we have picked the right quality of seed, we are growing, we need to know what will be the temperature of our substrate, that is our growing medium, since we are not using soil. And for us, this is very, very important, knowing that we are not using soil, which means that the what's it called now, soil on its own is not able to regulate itself based on the temperature outside. We need to know what to expect so that we are able to prepare adequately for it, either by having coolant, fans, or whatever it is that we need to properly regulate the temperature for the houses or for the plants. So let me at this point divert a bit to explain that when we say greenhouses, the idea, normally when we say greenhouse emission, you're talking about release of hot air or CO2 that would trap and becomes hot and all of that. Now, in our own case, what we are most concerned about is what parameters in nature, that's the abiotic factor and biotic factor, that we can control for optimal productivity of our plants. That is basically our concern. So we have sensors that helps us track all of these things to ensure that we are giving the optimum environment for the growing of our plants. Then at Harvest, we also have an area where we have a cold room. Now, for the cold room, we need to, so one of the things we also do is understanding what temperature does this plant need to stay in to have a longer shelf life, such that the quality of what we are getting out is not compromised. So for us, that is a big deal. So what that simply essentially means is we must be able to figure out, okay, we have tomatoes, we have pepper, we have lettuce. What do these plants need differently? What do they need collaboratively? What do I need to put in place? So these are some of the things we also look at. What do I need to have as the temperature of my cold room? Then we are calculating how long will it take for this vegetable to deteriorate. Then, of course, we do not do this in isolation. How do I mean? It's not enough for us to say we want to just get the temperature of the cold room because we need the cold room for ourselves. Much more than that, we also need to know what is the market like, because if we keep the vegetables in the cold room at Harvest, but we are sending it to a market where they do not have a cold room, what would simply happen is by the time the vegetables leave the cold room and get to the market, the deterioration rate will be very fast. So what I'm just trying to explain is it is not enough for you to adopt technology. We try to understand the entire process, that we may have the technology does not mean we need to use it, because the person we are selling to does not have the technology to maintain the same quality. So on the farm, we have a charcoal room that is a locally constructed cold room that does not use electricity or anything, where we are able to store vegetables for those kind of people who do not have a cold room, so we can store locally to ensure that when it gets to the open market, they are still perfectly fine. So because of time, I will round up at this point, but what I just want to explain is when it comes to the use of digital agriculture, the use of precision farming, especially because that is the area I deal with, it's not just about buying technology for technology's sake, but understanding the needs that you are trying to meet. Because at the end of the day, like we would always say on the farm, technology in itself is not the solution. Technology is just an enabler of the solution. So it behooves us, this is a code room when we're building it, so it behooves us as individuals to be able to understand what technology or what the solution really is before latching on to the technology that can help make the process much more efficient and better. And this cannot be done without
Hello,
proper
sir.
data collection.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, the video is not showing again. It has stopped. So from what you're saying, it seems
Okay.
you want us to see something. So kindly help us check again. Thank you. Sorry for that.
No problem. I'm actually already done with the talk. I was just trying to show some different areas of the farm, different areas of the farm. I'm sorry that network kind of, I don't know if it's network. Let me see if this would show. Sorry, there's no way I want to come to, okay. So this is just an area of the farm. This is aeroponics. So you see the roots of the plants. I don't know if this is showing. It's an interview back then by CNN. I just want you to see the roots of the plants. And also when we say soilless farming, this is what we're talking about. Thank you for listening. I'm available for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Samson Ogbole. We really appreciate your input on this. I think you've been able to relate technology adaptation and adoption, with agricultural practices and how we can adopt that and make sure that it is something that we can consistently actually apply so that we can maintain same level of quality. I really appreciate the video you have even shown to us, giving us a kind of pictorial view of what the technology is all about. So I want to use this opportunity to appreciate Dr. Raymond and then Mr. Samson for those presentations. So we're going to move into Q&A right now. To the participants, the audience, please, if you have any question, you can drop it on the chat message. And if you want to ask directly, you can raise up your hand. I will try and unmute you and then to get you to speak out. So I have 2 questions already from Scholastica. So maybe before we take that, I have Samson Adekola online. So Samson Adekola, please unmute and you can speak. Mr. Samson Adekola, can you hear me?
All right. Yes, I can hear you, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Please make it brief. Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you, sir. I have 2 questions. And the first question I have is, number 1 is, how can this technology be avoidable, by the smallholder farmers? When I talk about technology, we all know that 80% of what is being produced, globally comes from smallholder farmers. So how can smallholder farmers have access to this technology? That is number 1. Then number 2, on the piece of soilless farming, soilless farming, can it be adopted by the smallholder farmers? Those are my 2 questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Samuel Adekola. So the first question talks about how can the technology we're talking about be make affordable, considering that a lot of people, larger percentage of the people in agriculture now, they are smallholder farmers. So I'll pass that on to Dr. Raymond. Could you please help us do justice to that? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Samuel Adekola, for your question. Now, like the time I was speaking, I said it would be nice for you to not take technology as something you just want to digitalize every single process that you have. Depending on the type of farming that you're doing, there is an aspect of your farm practice that you can easily get. As I'm talking about, some of them can have subscriptions as low as 10,000 in a month. There is a quarterly plan that puts into consideration the size of farming, number of farm networks that you have, and then some that are actually blown for full large scale farming. So regardless of, like I said, it is a pain point that you want to do. Take, for example, a client of ours that came around and said, oh, to have simple drones that can actually give us an aerial view. I said, okay, you just want to have an aerial view of the farm, or you want to capture the image and then begin to store and communicate those images real time to another monitoring tower. So the need of what he was talking about was used to get his pricing for him. And again, there are schemes that the federal government has put in place that you can actually get. When I mean free of charge, it doesn't have to cost you money immediately, but it's part of the rural development scheme, and you can be equipped with some of these things that can come as software, mobile application that you can easily use. So permit me to say at this time that the fear of the cost for most of those software shouldn't stop you. It could be you didn't go directly into soil monitoring, but you started with digitizing how your supply chain is running. That is part of integrating technology into your agricultural practice. Samuel, hope I was able to respond to your question, Mr. Fashola, the engineer.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Raymond. I believe you actually answered that very well. So the second question actually goes to Mr. Sampson. So it's actually from Mr. Samuel Adekola too. Talks about soilless farming, that can it be adopted by smallholder farmer? Just in the same line, another question came in from Dr. Chichi, that what are the plants that can be grown on soilless farm? Maybe if you can take a shot at those two questions, Mr. Sampson, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So can this be used by smallholder farmer? Yes, soilless farming is not expensive. It's the aesthetics that is expensive. Now, when we talk about, we must differentiate greenhouse farming from soilless farming. Greenhouse farming is just the controlled environment you are giving to the plants. And how expensive your greenhouse is dependent on what parameters you want to control. That is what Dr. Okoro was trying to explain. If I want to grow strawberry in Lagos, then I have a lot more things I want to control, which means my greenhouse will be much more expensive. If I want to grow ugu pumpkin in Lagos, there are fewer things I need to control. That drops the price considerably. So first, it's about understanding the technology, not just adopting it because it sounds nice. On the flip side, when we say soilless farming is just removing the soil component. So the way I like to at times explain soilless farming is using our cooking method. I grew up in the village, and I remember growing up with my grandparents. You had to be specially trusted for you to touch the kerosene stove. Instead, you go and use the firewood. And from firewood, we grew up, we started using charcoal control stuff, where you just put the charcoal in the stove and do your cooking. I mean, it was still hard, but it felt better than using firewood. Finally, we graduated to using kerosene stove. I think I was already in university before I was trusted enough to touch gas. Then I started seeing electric cooker in schools and all of that. Now, this is the point. What was fundamental to the cooking of the food was heat. The way the heat comes could either be firewood, charcoal, stove, gas cooker, electric cooker. The food does not care. What matters to the food is there is heat. Same way, cycle it round to soilless farming. What matters to the plant is there is nutrients. Whether you bring the nutrient through soil, through non-soil, through water, through air, the plant does not really care. So the question now becomes, when they ask, what kind of plant can I grow with soilless farming? My answer to that usually is, what kind of plant requires nutrients? If the plant requires nutrients, it can grow without soil. So I think the real question they would want to ask is, what kind are most profitable with soilless farming? Because the fact that soilless farming can grow all crops does not mean it makes economic sense to grow all crops without soil. Hope I've answered.
Hello, Mr. Samuel. Thank you very much. You have answered, but I think I also need to take it a bit further, which is from your last comment, which sounds like a question. You talked about the most profitable crops that can be grown with soil. There are a lot of questions relating to what type of plants or crops that we can actually grow. And so maybe you can expand the discussion to take care of, to address that aspect, that what are the profitable crops that can be grown with soilless farming. Then in addition to that, somebody asked, that's Mr. Denekwa, that what is the difference in terms of nutrient base when you compare with the use of soil, you know, when you compare soilless and then use of soil for plant production or for crop production. So maybe you can help us attempt to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So question one was, what kind of crops are most profitable? The most profitable crops, number one, depends on where you are. For example, I'm in Ogun State. I sell basically in Lagos. It makes most economic sense for me to grow broccoli, cauliflower, lettuce, parsley, celery in Lagos. Sorry, for Lagos markets. I am not going to use my soilless farming to grow ugu, not because it cannot grow ugu, but the local farmers will grow this and they are going to get most of their production for free. On the flip side, we have a farm in Dubai. In Dubai, we are not busy growing lettuce. We are busy growing things like efo shoko, efo tete, that's amaranthus, water leaves and stuff like that. Why? In that place, those crops are hot cake. So they are most profitable there. If I go there, remember when we started with lettuce. We were competing with a lot of people growing lettuce. Why? Their local farmers can do lettuce. So it's about, first, what does the environment want? Because you are putting up a technology, you want to maximize the potentials of that technology. Number two, generally speaking, you don't want to use it to grow 3 crops. How much will it cost you to set up the technology? How long will it take before the tree is ready to give you back the money? It doesn't make economic sense. Then the second part of your question was nutrients. And the way I would like to answer that would be, if, for example, today I have COVID and I am rushed to the hospital that I need oxygen, the question becomes, what is the difference between the oxygen I get in the hospital and the oxygen I would have breathed normally? The reality is, if where I live is not polluted, then the air I get is the same. Oxygen is oxygen, whether in the hospital or by nature. Oxygen is oxygen. The same thing with soilless farming, the nutrients that we supply is what they should have gotten in soil. Is the equivalent of asking what is the difference between the heat from electric cooker and the heat from charcoal. Heat is heat, the food does not care. Just give me heat, I will get cooked. So same way, if we are not able to provide the exact nutrients that the plant requires, like it would have gotten in the soil, then the plant would be deficient, like would have happened if it were in the soil, if it didn't have the same nutrients. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for that response. I think I could pick from
one thing from the tech aspect. Sam, you did so well with your response. For the person that is still asking, how do I know which one gives my value? The world we live in now, most of the data that you are asking for is available. There are samples. There are people who have tried that same thing. You know, I made mention of there are what they call open data shareability grid, where you can log in and see what type of crop particularly will do well in a particular area. What is what they call market intelligence. So some of those data that you're asking for, instead of just moving by faith, God has already answered that prayer via data. So, and there are businesses that it's not to go till the soil, but they just have base data to answer some of these questions that you have. And I'm not talking about businesses that are outside the country. Many of them are distributed enough here in the Southwest. They can easily give you most of the data that you are referring to tell you, oh, this is the one you want, you have to go into when it comes to hydroponics. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Raymond. I really appreciate that input. So you did talk about the data is available, so data should help drive your decision with respect to the kind of crops that you use soilless for. And then Mr. Sampson also talked about you have to think locally about that. What are the crops, or what are the crops, yes, that are actually in demand in your market, and then based on your environmental conditions. So those are the considerations. Thank you. This question goes to Dr. Raymond. And during your presentation, you did talk about some of the factors that inhibit full adoption, of this technology. And you did talk about lack of labor. Scholastica wants to know that, okay, since we're talking about technology, which is supposed to address, unavailability of labor, why the need for more labor again? Why should labor be a challenge or an issue when it comes to technology adoption? Dr. Raymond.
To answer that, I said, somebody will say, if you don't know where to put your hand, you can just put your hand and lean on your knee, right? Various those factors that will say, oh, this is going to stop me from adopting technology to my practices are more or less like excuses. And the reason why I'm calling those excuses is because all these things has been answered. Take, for example, the one you say lack of labor, all right? Somebody put that question as, okay, the ones we have, they are all manually inclined. People are afraid, of learning new things. So now you realize that the labor you have will have to relearn a lot of things on how to use this technology. Take, for example, some large-scale farmers who practice pest control. But now there are drones available that actually will do that. So lack of labor in farms, I'm not referring to traditional farming. I'm referring to those who are, in this case, have been trained on how to use this technology, as well as those who understand what the new policies are concerning government schemes, concerning the practices that is available within a particular sector of a country, for example. Now, take, for example, if you are inviting a farm manager who is a foreigner to come handle a farm in Abeokuta, for example, the person will need to know what the rules and regulation of that area will be. So there was something that Samson mentioned when he was talking. He said you can't just adopt verbatim without understanding the terrain. So when you say lack of labor in farms, it could be the farmers you have do not understand the terrain. That was what.
Thank you. So I have another question from Desmond. It talks about how does these technologies in agriculture help to create job opportunities and decrease unemployment in Nigeria? I think you can understand where it's coming from. When you bring in technology, it drives efficiency, you have a reduction in the labor. So how do we now use that to create more employment opportunities and decrease unemployment in Nigeria? What's your thoughts?
Okay, look at this as not replacement, right? Technology is not there to replace. Of course, there are some aspects that will be replaced completely, but it's to empower you, right? The only ones that will, a particular practice or a job that will be replaced completely are the ones that don't want to imbibe these enhancements that we have. Understand there was a time, let me give you this analogy. There was a time, the means of transportation, you have to climb at the back of a camel. But now we have cars. Everybody learned into that. It's a revolution. We got into it and that enhanced our transportation. So now you have technologies that is being used to optimize agricultural practices. So that calls for the need of saying, this is not to replace you entirely, but you are having a cutting edge when you already know how to do things traditionally. And now they are presented with a platform to even further optimize what you have. So think of empowerment and not replacement. Thank you.
All right, think of empowerment and not replacement. So technology is to empower people and make them more productive. So this is still to you, Dr. Raymond. I will still continue to expand the conversation. So there's a question here that, yes, we are adopting technology. Is there any chemical effect of this technology on the products? coming from the perspective that I want to do something for you, could also do something against you. So you need to understand what it's going to do against you. So is there any chemical effect of this technology on the products, like on the crops?
Oh, okay. So I mentioned a lot of, I would have loved the person to be specific, probably will give me an example of the aspect of farming you're referring to. And then the effect you're talking about, is it the effect is going to have like an adverse effect on the crop itself, or the adverse effect of you that has adopted it? I'm not sure I'm very clear.
Okay, so from the question there, it's talking about the adverse effect, whether there's any adverse chemical effect of technology on the crops or the products from the farming. Let me give you an example. We have, okay, let's go to the aspect of mechanization. So when you use machines, those machines, they also have oil, you use what's it called, fuel, diesel, to run them. So those diesel, when they find when they find their way into the soil, they could actually have an effect, adverse effect on the crops. So he's not asking whether there's any adverse chemical effect of any of these technologies on the crop itself.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so let me speak more from the large-scale mechanized farming, right? You have tractors that are driverless, right? May I say that each of the technology that I have mentioned requires you to have a maintenance strategy, okay? So just the way you also wake up and then you service your vehicle. You service your vehicle not because traditionally you are to service it not because it's having a fault. You are servicing it to make sure faults are reduced as much as possible. So if there are the issue of leakages, sustainability, the issue of reducing environmental oil, there is always a maintenance plan. There's always a checkup, especially when it comes to IoT-enabled tractors, for example, drones that are enabled to spread in pesticides and everything. Many of these things have been designed. If you do your research well, you realize many of them have been researched to have a reduced impact on the natural ecosystem. Okay, so it's not just to give you the large scale and say start flying drones and everything. You also see the maintenance scale and say, okay, if this one contains hydraulics, for example, that may spill, before you take it to the field, these are the tests that must be passed, like standards that must be met, things that you always watch out for before you adopt them completely.
Thank you very much. Maintenance is also key. Based on what you responded, maintenance is key to making sure that those equipment that we use for as our technology, they actually works very well. And I totally agree with you. If you have to use a drone or automated irrigation system, or you're using a drone to actually spray chemical, if it fails, then it's either you overspray the chemical, which will eventually affect the crops. So now over to you, Mr. Sampson. Maybe I can hear your thought on this. Is there any adverse chemical effect of soilless farming on the crops? Mr. Sampson?
Yeah, thank you very much. Is there any adverse effect? The answer would be depends on who is using it. Who is using the technology? It's like asking, is there any adverse effect of knife in the kitchen? If I use knife well, it is great. If I use it wrongly, I will cut off my hands. So it depends on who is using it. That's the answer, the simple and short answer, because right now you have the power to provide what the plant needs, which means I decide whether I'm giving the right or the wrong amount of what the plant needs. But if we go under the assumption that I am giving the plant the right thing that it needs, then no, there is no adverse effect. Instead, there are actually reports already suggest that plants grown without soil has higher level of phytochemicals and antioxidants compared to those grown with soil. And the reason for that is not far-fetched. They are getting the right amount they need. They are not competing. There are no injuries to heal from. They are basically like what we would call the agibotas. So yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So this question is actually for both of you, but I will ask Dr. Raymond to take a stab on it. The overarching goal of SDG is that no one is left behind, and and which simply means maybe inclusion in a common balance. And research has shown, and which you actually alluded to that Nigeria, even by extension, Africa, agricultural space is dominated by smallholder and rural farmers with low level of ICT literacy. So as an expert in digital technologies, how do you think this dominant community can be brought on board to accept, adopt, and benefit from these digital innovations? So Dr. Raymond.
Okay, so the key word there is what they call change management. All right, the government is in 100%. There are schemes, there are commissions that is tended towards directly what they call creating digital awareness for these rural communities. So as I speak to you, there are communities that have arranged trainings, like orientation programs, and no matter the digital exposure of these communities, they will always come on. You know, they say start where you are with what you have. Many of them can before now has been sending messages either via pigeons or whatever. Now they know how to use smartphones. So you will see from the smartphones that they have, those of them that are into grazing, for example, started showing them how to use the animal tracking to actually see some of this. What I'm driving at is the policy that is in place by the federal government has empowered several private sector to invest into training local. So the answer is just straight to the point. Work on change management, train people, and do one.
All right, thank you very much. Change management is key to engaging the rural farmers or the smallholder farmers to adopt or to accept, adopt, and adapt those technology. Thank you very much, Dr. Raymond. Mr. Sampson, any thought from you on that?
Yeah, I mean, doctor has already said it all. When it comes to the smallholder farmer, personally, my thought had always been, why go after the past when you can pursue the future? Why try it? Because I mean, it's hard to get people to change their habits. However, if we can go after the next generation, by default, the past generation would want to follow through and say, oh, this is what is reigning, this is what is profitable, they would follow. The path to pushing technology had always been increase profitability and efficiency for the users, the new users. The old-time users that are already stuck in their way would see a reason to change. It's that simple.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for those comments. So this may be a last question from this side. We all know that, you know, infrastructure is still not where we want it to be. And you will understand we struggle with internet connectivity. And most of these digital technologies are based on internet, you know, like talking about the drone, talking about even common CCTV for your security on the farm, talking about automated irrigation system. You need infrastructure, ICT infrastructure, you need electricity, power infrastructure. So what are your expert guidance to agro investors that are operating in an environment with poor infrastructure and are interested, and they are very interested in adopting digital technologies? Mr. Sampson, let me hear your thought.
Yeah, I mean, right now my farm is in a place where we are not even connected to the national grid, but I'm still able to get Starlinks from Elon Musk, whatever, and that is what I'm using on the farm, and the network is quite good. The point being, when you don't, if you are not, that's why I said technology is not first the answer, is your ability to think through your reality and figure out the solution. If you don't do that, you get stuck. So yes, we might be in a country where there is no infrastructure, where there are not a lot of basic amenities, but what that also means is we are in a country where we can explore multiple opportunities, where we can figure out how to do things differently from the norm. And what that simply means is, if we can figure out how to do things differently from the norm, that gives us an edge over those who live in an environment where there is the norm. Because if for any reason you expand to such places, you are going to fly where others are working, because now you are able to do a lot more with what they have. So for me, it's always around understand the problem well, don't follow the masses in reproducing their thoughts. Oh, there is no light, nothing can work. No, yes, there is no light, we understand that. but are there technologies that can function without light? Yes, there is no internet. Are there technologies I can do without the use of internet? Are there simpler tools I can use? So let me also add this caveat. You do not necessarily need the expensive tools to become digitalized. There are cheaper tools we can latch onto. The issue is they don't give us that aesthetic feel to come out and say, I'm a tech bro. So people tend to reject it because you want to bear the title tech bro in agriculture. So we need to understand our reality and work from our reality to achieve efficiency. So efficiency does not mean going from 2% to 100%. At times it could mean just going from 2% to 4% with technology. It is fine. As things get easier, you can move from 4% to 10% gradually till you get to 100%. But this thing of trying to do a leap from you were on 2% using hoe and cutlass, but you want to jump straight to using robots. No, you've not even understood the process. So what the technology will help you do is run you down faster than the natural process would have taken you. So I would say, understand where you are, understand what you can use, and grow gradually. Like I always say in agriculture, we do not blow, we grow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samson. In agriculture, we do not blow, we grow. Thank you, I love that. All right, Dr. Raymond, any thought from you on that?
It's fantastic. A very, very wonderful response that Samson gave. You know, I said, start where you are with what you have. There is no, take for example, if you're looking at the network readiness of your environment, to use that as an excuse for not going into looking at the possibility of digitizing some of your practice. I always keep on saying some, meaning is like Samson rightly said, is a journey. It's not something you just, you just do one time and then you complete it. It's a journey. Part of what majority of these private outlets do, who are to give you a digitization roadmap, is to look at your pain point. Which one will give you more value into businesses? Then you start from there. As I'm talking to you, there are some farms, when they approached us, they were talking about having a smart monitor, for example, putting control towers and everything. And then the one that was, I said, okay, this is where you're going to start, was just to begin with digitizing their warehouses, locating their market intelligently, and then they can begin to see, okay, one step at a time, consistency, before you know it, the entire farm and the entire agricultural practices was digitized. So that is what I can chip into. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Raymond, for your input. Really, really interesting. So we have actually exhausted our allotted time, and I really want to thank Dr. Raymond Okoro and Mr. Samson Ogule. You've done an excellent job in impacting us with deep insight on how we can benefit from the technologies in agricultural space. You know, you've shared with us the impact of technologies on agriculture, agricultural practices. You've shared the benefits, you've shared how we can actually deal with that. We really, really learned a lot from you. It's been an educative session. Thank you so much. So within just maybe 1 minute, maybe you can give us your parting words, Dr. Raymond, your word of encouragement for the audience.
Okay, so what I would say is this: bringing in technology into agribusiness, the illiteracy, the person you will regard as an illiterate at this time, 2023, is not somebody who can read, but it's somebody who does not have that open heart to relearn or learn a lot of practices and then begin to adopt technologies that will make those things better and begin to add more economic value. So this afternoon that we have talked about simple tech that you can adopt, I want us to be doers and not just listeners. Go back to your practices, look at different areas, units in your agribusiness, and see the one you can bring in technology and empower you to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you for that inspirational comments. We need to go back and look at all our agricultural practices and look at the aspect that we can actually adopt technologies to improve. Thank you so much. Mr. Samson, your thoughts? a word of encouragement for the team.
Would it really be encouragement? Just my thought would be everybody here, we all eat, we all wear clothes at some point or the other, we use drugs. What that essentially means is everybody here, we are part of the agricultural value chain because we spend money in agric. And if you look at how we spend money, over 50% of our revenue or our income goes into agric. So the question is, how are you making money from agriculture? At the end of the day, we don't all have to be farmers, but we all can make money from the value chain of agriculture. And digital agriculture is a way that you can plug in. So figure it out, find a way to come in, start simple, grow fast, leave a legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sampson. You all need to think about how we can make money from digital agriculture. That is a good one to take home. I really want to thank both of you, the speakers, Dr. Raymond Okoro and Mr. Sampson Ogbole, for taking out your time to share out of your wealth of experience with everyone. So I also want to thank everyone on the call here for joining us, for joining this session. I believe it has been educative and impactful for you. And I also to Mr. Christopher Lawal of Rome Business School Value Proposition to speak on Rome Business School Value Proposition. Over to you, Mr. Christopher. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fashola, for the interesting moderation. I must appreciate you in spite of the network challenges. Thank you so much. I'd like to also appreciate Dr. Raymond for the wonderful insights into this session for today, and also Mr. Sampson Ogbole for the thoughts, of course, you've shared. I believe everyone on this call has been impacted with additional knowledge and information as far as utilizing technologies for agricultural practices is concerned. Okay, so at Rome Business School, these are more we do, okay, as far as equipping professionals and business owners with the right skill set is concerned. Okay, because we believe you have to drive change, and of course the business place, and it's very competitive. Okay, so having additional information and knowledge gives you the added advantage. Okay, and that is why we have various master's program cutting across different industries, which we just talked about now. Yeah, we're talking about the agribusiness. Okay, so we have a master in agribusiness that gives you more insight into how to take advantage, and of course, key into the different value chain, just like Mr. Sampson has said. Okay, so the master exposes you to agricultural practices as far as this skill set is concerned. Okay, and of course, we have other benefits for coming on board to the master's program. Okay, we have a career service that will be there to walk you through to understand the reason why you want to do the program, your short-term goals, your mid-term goals, and see how to help you actualize that. Okay, and of course, the learning structure is very flexible to give you insight into the various ways to combine work and of course study. Okay, it's a one-year program and classes for the executive, both fortnightly, Saturdays, Sundays. Okay, gives room for you to balance work and of course live also. And of course, for the international masters, classes are weekly, Wednesdays to Fridays. Okay, for young professionals and of course graduates, managers. Okay, so the various benefits as far as professional membership and affiliation is concerned, Rome Business School gives you that, and Rome Business School is also accredited by the AACSB. Okay, we're a member of the AACSB, Association to Advanced Colleges School of Business. Okay, it's one of the foremost business schools, one of the foremost institutions rather that accredit business schools worldwide. Okay, and we're also a member of the EFMD. Okay, so that's the European Foundation for Managerial Development. Okay, this is another institution that accredit business schools for their qualitative executive programs. Okay, and we have the accreditation from the EUCCS. That's the European Online Course Certification System giving credence to the quality of our online delivery. So what it means is that whether you're doing the program online or you're coming down physically, okay, we got you covered with the same qualitative education you'll be getting, because for those connecting virtually, you're joining the live class. So it's a live in session where you participate and you get to interact with colleagues and the faculty. And for the faculties, these are industry experts with decades of experience in the industry, giving you what you can apply to your business or to your professional space. Okay, so cumulative or as of over 100 years of experience. So you'll be sharing from their word of knowledge. And of course, as you encounter challenges in your professional journey, you have solutions to them. Okay, and there's no better time to run a master's program than now, of course, because if you want to go further, you want to go further, getting a master's program is very important. And not just getting any master's program, getting a master's program with Rome Business School is very key to take your career or business to the next level. Currently, application is ongoing for the October 2023 intake. Okay, so there's still early bird scholarship available, which you can aim to cushion the effect of the tuition fee, and of course, so you can kickstart your program. And the Business Leadership Development Program, pre-master activities that start giving you value, preparing you to become a global business leader, is currently available. Okay, so you have opportunity to actually participate in this. Okay, so for international exposure and experience, also coming on board to Rome Business School gives you opportunity to widen your horizon through our study tour and boot camps. Okay, for more information, you can reach out to your advisors to walk you through this, or you can visit our website www.romebusinessschool.ng to get more information, or you can send us an email to info@romebusinessschool.ng, okay, to send in your inquiries and your questions. Okay, I'll be delighted to have that. I would like to appreciate our executive students once again for being part of this, and of course our prospective students. We look forward to having you on board, of course, on this exciting journey to become a global business leader. Thank you so much for the audience. Sarah, please, you can take it away.
All right, Mr. Chris, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for joining today's insightful webinar. We hope that you found this section engaging and valuable, and that you gained new perspective and practical tips that would help you in your various fields. I want to express my gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Mr. Raymond or Dr. Raymond and Mr. Sampson, for sharing their expertise to all our active participants. And thank you everyone that contributed to making today's section very engaging with your questions and your contributions. I say a very big thank you. And to our moderator also, thank you so much, Engineer Fashola. We want everyone to stay connected. More webinars are coming. We have the Rome Business School Nigeria Career Fair coming up on the 15th of July, 2023. We want you all to register if you have not already done so. It promises to be very, very spectacular. Our speaker, Dr. Raymond Okoro, he's on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow him on LinkedIn to ask more questions. On LinkedIn as Mr. Sampson Ogbole. So feel free to follow our moderator as well. Feel free to follow. Thank you all so much for today's section. Have an amazing weekend. Bye.
Right, thank you all. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Gracias.